Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Yusuf, what do you understand from this hadith? Read it again and tell me what do you understand from this hadith. Read the hadith again and tell me what did you understand from the hadith. If any of the online people, when I ask a question here to the students, the contact students, if any of the online people want to answer, they can also answer, inshallah. What do you understand from this hadith here? Tell me what did you understand from this hadith? If you see a janazah, you should stand up. Right? إذا رأيتم الجنازة فقوموا. Right? When you first part is actually it's not linked actually. Okay, it is linked. You can say it is linked. So when إذا رأيتم الجنازة, when you see a janaza, you must stand up out of respect for it, right? And then فمن تبعها, right? Then فلا يقعد, فلا يقعد. So you should wait till the janazah is put down, then you should sit down, right? So that is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. That is what the hadith is saying. Right. So if you look at the hadith, what the hadith is saying, you see, you also have to assess whether you understand the basic understanding of the hadith or the basic meaning of the hadith. If you see a janaza, you should stand out of respect for the janaza, right? And then if you follow it also, so what the hadith is saying, if you follow it after you see it, then you shouldn't sit down until the janaza is put down. You should wait till the janaza is put down, or put in the qabr, or maybe just put on the side while they're preparing the whole whatever, right? That's what the hadith is saying. Now, coming to the masla of whether you should stand out of respect for a janaza or not, right? That is a mukhtalaf fi masla. And the reason why it's a mukhtalaf fi masla is different opinions. Mana Rashid, just cover inshallah from Tariq. So there is difference of opinion amongst the ulama. And the reason why there's difference of opinion among the ulama, whether you should stand or not, is because there are different riwayat. There are differing riwayat. So some riwayat, some narrations suggest that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood when he saw the janaza, and some riwayat suggest he did not stand. The simple intibaq between that is that in the initial stages of Islam, Nabi, so if you understood this here now, you're going to understand all the forthcoming hadith. You understand what I'm telling you now, you're going to understand all the forthcoming hadith, right? It's easy. The simple intibaq is this here, that those hadith that suggest Nabi Sallallahu said you must stand, and those hadith that suggest that Nabi himself stood up out of respect for the janazah, they were in the initial stages of Islam, but later on it was made mansukh. Are you with me? I told you, stand up out of respect for deceased. This is mansukh. It has been abrogated. There's a hadith that will come, in fact, one hadith after this, narrated on the authority of ulama, right? On the authority of Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. He said you shouldn't stand up. So most of the ulama, the more ulama, are of the opinion that this hadith is mansukh. Was the hadith number 5 that is coming, right? So you got two type of hadith, right? Some hadith when it is suggested Nabi Sallallahu stood up and he said stand up, and some hadith when Nabi Sallallahu didn't stand up and he said don't stand up. So I told you one explanation is that here we say that those that said stand up, it is mansukh, it is abrogated, and those when Nabi didn't stand up, that is nasikh, it is abrogated, right? That's one way of trying to correlate between the outwardly contradictory hadith. Are you with me? Another way of correlating between the outwardly contradictory hadith is this here. Some ulama says that if you are going to follow the janazah, for example, in previous times, maybe this is not so relevant today because most of the distances are far. So the janazah is transported by conveyance. But in previous time, like I told you, remember I told you that The whole Masjid al-Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or rather in the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Medina Sharif was what is today Masjid al-Nabawi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right, are you with me? So people would just carry the janaza. So one explanation is that here, that so one explanation is this here, that if you see a janaza and you're planning to follow the janaza, then you stand up. But if you're not planning to follow the janaza, then you remain seated. So that is one, I can say, intibaqat, correlation between the outwardly contradicted hadith. If you're going to lend your shoulder to the janaza, you're going to lend. Other than that, it is makruh. Some ulama say that the choice is vested with the individual. So if you want to stand, you can stand. If you don't want to stand, you don't have to stand. Stand. I was telling you there is different riwayat, but the khulasa, the zubta of the kalam is this here. If somebody just stands up all of a sudden out of awe that somebody has passed away, and he just stands up like unintentionally, then it's okay. Or if a person stands up out of respect for the angels that are accompanying the janaza, or he stands up because he wants to help carry the janaza, then there's no problem. But just to stand up out of reverence for that, that is mansukh. So, and then also, this which same like how we said it, you shouldn't sit until the janaza is not down. We say also that is mansukh. Or we say it means like that you shouldn't sit down and rest. You should help with the lowering of the janaza, etc., etc. So it's not technically, so to say, an adab and an etiquette that you're not allowed to sit down until the janaza is put down. Okay, read the next one.
وعن جابر رضي الله عنه قال مرت جنازة فقام لها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وقلنا معه فقلنا إلا يا رسول الله إنها يهودية فقال ارجعوا فإذا رأيتم الجنازة فقولوا.
Okay, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعن جابر narrated authority of Jabir رضي الله تعالى said مرت جنازة, once a janaza passed فقام لها رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Prophet stood up out of respect for the janaza. وقمنا معه, and we stood with him. فقلنا يا رسول الله, we said يا رسول الله, you standing up, this is a Jew, إنها يهودية, this is a Jewish that is passed away. فقال إن الموت فزع, verily death is like a fearful thing. Death is a fearful thing. فإذا رأيتم الجنازة فقوموا, so when you see a janaza, then stand up. Because we gave you all the details of this, we explained to you that the preferred explanation is that it's mansukh, or if you're doing it for some other reason, just out of awe or out of respect for the angels, then it's a different story, right? Read the next one.
وعن علي رضي الله عنه قال إن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قام فقمنا فقعد يعني في الجنازة.
Yeah.
مسلم في رواية مالك وابي داود قامت الجنازة فقعد.
Right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, narrating the authority of Ali radiallahu ta'ala, who said, we saw Rasulullah standing, qama faqumna, so we stood with him. وقعد, and he sat, so we sat. وقعد, we sat with him, يعني in the janaza. رواه مسلم, Imam Muslim narrates this particular riwayat. وفي رواية مالك, and in رواية Imam Malik, وأبي داود, and Abu Dawud, قام في الجنازة, he stood up in a janaza, ثم قعد بعد, and he sat after it. This hadith can have one of two explanations. One explanation is this here, like what we told you, the preferred explanation. In the initial stages of Islam, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to stand out of respect and reverence for the janaza, irrespective of whether it was a Muslim or it was a non-Muslim, right? But later on, he didn't stand, right? I told you, so this hadith is nasikh for the other hadith. This hadith is nasikh for the other hadith, right? Another explanation is this here, that what it means is that doesn't refer to in the initial stages and the latter stage of Islam. What it means is that as long as Nabi Sallallahu stood out of reverence for the janazah, the Sahaba Karam also stood. But the moment Nabi Sallallahu sat down, then he also sat down. So they followed him. It referred to like a single instance, not the beginning and the later stage of Islam. Are you with me? You understood that? Okay, read the next riwayat.
عن ابي هريره رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من اتبع المسلم ايمانا واحتسابا وكان معه
حتى يصلى عليها
يصلى عليها ويفرغ من دفنها فان لم قيراتين وكل قيرات مثل احد ومن صلى عليها ثم رجع قبله
Okay, so this hadith speaks about the great, humongous, magnanimous reward for taking part in the janazah salah and also taking part in the burial. وعن أبي هريرة narrated the authority of Abu Hurairah. It is also sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the name of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, especially today is a Friday. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Man ittaba'a janazata muslimin. Whoever follows the janazah of a Muslim. Literally means follow, but here in this case, from the context, you understand, it means whoever takes part in a janazah, right? Imanan, with faith and belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wahtisaban, and hoping for reward. These words are common, for Man qama Ramadana imana wa ihtisaba. Allahumma sallimna li Ramadan wa sallim min Ramadan lana wa sallim lana mutaqabbala. Allahumma ballighna Ramadan. May Allah Ta'ala make us reach the month of Ramadan with afiyat and give us the strength and the health to fast in the month of Ramadan. Say Ameen. Those that are sick, may Allah Ta'ala give them the ability to fast in the month of Ramadan. Ameen, Ameen, Ya Rabbil Alameen. So you do this. Why say Iman and Wahtisaba? Luqman, what the benefit of this Iman and Wahtisaba? You do it with Iman and hope for reward. To show that you do it solely for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not because of some other reason. Maybe this was a prominent person. If you are not seen there, then you're going to say, people are going to say, oh, if I don't go to the janazah, what are the people going to say? And this person, what is this person going to say, etc., right? So you do it for the pleasure of Allah, ihtisaba, hope for reward in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? وَكَانَ مَعَهُ حَتَّى يُصَلَّ عَلَيْهَا. Then he is with the janazah until the janazah namaz is read, right? وَيُفْرَهُ مِنْ دَفْنِهَا, and until it is completed from his burial. فَإِنَّهُ يَرْجِعُ مِنَ الْأَجْرِ بِقِيرَاتَيْنِ. Then he will return there with 2 qirats, right, of reward. Qirat. كل قيرات مثل أحد. Every qirat will be the likeness of Uhud in reward, right? وَمَنْ صَلَّ عَلَيْهَا, whoever prays upon the deceased, ثُمَّ رَجَعَ قَبْلَ أَنْ تُدْفَنَ, and then he returns before he's buried. He just read like you were by the masjid and they were doing janazah salah, so you just read the janazah salah and you never go over to the qabristan, right? فَإِنَّهُ يَرْجِعُ بِقِيرَاتٍ. Such a person will only get 1 qirat. مُتَّفَقٌ عَلَيْهِ. There's a muttafaq alayhi riwayat. So this qirat, normally it can be used to show a little or insignificant amount, or sometimes it is also used to show a large and a huge amount. Sometimes used to show a large and a huge amount. So obviously in this context you said qiratun mithlu Uhud, so that shows you it's used to show a huge amount, a huge reward. Are you with me? Used to show a huge reward. Just another example of where it is used to show a little bit, where it's a little like words from the context to understand. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Kuntu أرأى غنما لقريش على قراريته." كنت أرأى غنما لقريش على قراريته. And before Nubuwwat, when I was a young man, I used to graze, look after the flock of the Quraysh على قرار for a few qirats. You see, so qirat is also like a it's a measurement of maybe some monetary, maybe some piece of silver or piece of copper, whatever. So from the context, you'll see what it means, right? Okay, read the next riwayat.
وعن رضي الله عنه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم مع الناس النجاشية اليوم الذي مات فيه خرج بهم إلى المصلى فشق بهم وكبر 4 تكبيرات.
Okay, so the next hadith is a very important hadith for you people as the Hanafis. وعنه also narrated the authority was Abu Hurairah أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نعى للناس. نعى ينعى means to give the news of a death, to give the news of death. So نعى للناس النجاشية. He gave the news to the people of the demise of Najashi اليوم الذي مات فيه, the day which he passed away. So that's a miracle in itself. That Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Arabia was so far from Habsha. Obviously, there was no modern means of communication. Was لم يكن هنا وسائل الاتصال الحديثة. فهمت? Right. So وخرج بهم إلى المصلى. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam went to the musalla. فصفى بهم. He made a صفوف with them. وكبر 4 تكبيرات. And he made 4 takbirs. متفق عليه. There's a متفق عليه رواية. So what does this masla deal with? The important masla ikhtilaf that the Hanafi have with the other A'imma or the other Imams? What the important masla here? Yusuf? Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaibi. Right. So obviously those who speak about Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib, there's a proof for them. So interesting thing here, Najashi was the title of the king of Habsha. So the word Najashi is like king, like how the ruler of Romans would be called Qaisar. The ruler of the Persians would be called Kisra. The ruler of Egyptians in that time, we speak about pre-Islamic Islam, was called Fir'aun. So Fir'aun wasn't, okay, there's one particular Fir'aun that is repeated in the Quran, but Fir'aun is named for that's why Fara'in, you get a plural also of it, right? G, his name was Asham. And in those days also, the ruler of Yemen was called Tubba. The ruler of the Mongols were called Khan. That's why I say Genghis Khan. The king of India in the Indo-Sapat was called a Raja. So Najashi, his name, as you correctly pointed out, was Asham. So according to the correct opinion, he became a Muslim. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam performed Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib for him at the Musalla of Medina Shareef. Now the question is with regards to what we call Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib, its permissibility and its impermissibility. Before we look at the proofs, the Shawafi' and the La Madhabis, those people who don't have madhab, like what you call the Hayr Muqallideen, they say you can make Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib, right? They say it's permissible. The Jamhur ulama, they say no janaza unless the body is present. No janaza unless the body is present. So obviously you a Shafi already get on the dalil of those who say you can't make Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib. So what will they do? They'll use this hadith here as their proof. So the Jamhur ulama, they say that look, besides this incident, there are no other incidents where Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib. There was no other incidents, right? And besides that, they say, look, who understood the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam the best? Who understood the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Yusuf, who understood Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Huh? The Sahaba, and in particular, which Sahaba? The Ashara Mubashara. And in particular, which of the Ashara Mubashara? Huh? The Khulafa'i Arba'ah. They understood it correct. They understood the Sunnah of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam the best. It's not reported that they ever made Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib. There's no authentic riwayah to say they done. So that shows you what? That shows you this was the speciality of Najashi. It wasn't a qaida amiyya or a qaida kulliya. You understood that? So the Jamhur use the ta'amul of the Sahaba Ikram, the ta'amul of the Khulafa Rashidin. There's no authentic riwayat to say that the Khulafa Rashidin in their time, in their 10 years as the Khulafa, that they made Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib. So then what is our answer to this hadith here? Two, three answers we got. One answer is this here, that that there was no one to make Janazah Namaz for Najashi in Habsha. He was the only Muslim there. So as a special favor to him, as if Allah Ta'ala allowed Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam to make Janazah Namaz for him. So there's two people actually here. One is Najashi and Muawiyah Muzani, these two people who had no one to make Janazah Namaz for them. And then also another answer is here, that this was the speciality of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Some ulama say, they explain it like this, that Allah Ta'ala brought the bodies of these people into the presence of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Other ulama say, no, what it means that Allah Ta'ala removed the hijabat, the veils. Now, if you remember correctly, if you're smart, remember we said when a person is in his grave, it will be shown an image of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Some explanations, there were several explanations we covered there for those who were here. Ismail, were you present that day or were you absent? Absent that day. One explanation is that Allah Ta'ala will remove the hijabat between the deceased and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So you'll actually see Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in his grave, right? And another example of this is also, remember when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made Mi'raj, and the mushrikeen of Makkah, they found it very difficult to believe. They couldn't fathom how that Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would travel in one night so far. So they wanted to ask Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with regards to the pillars, right? Or in Masjid al-Nabawi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? Jazakallah, Shaykh. They asked him about the pillars in Masjid al-Nabawi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Allah Ta'ala brought an image. Make me maaf. My back is not so. You mind? You don't mind? Bye. Fine. You don't mind? You mind? Okay, Jazakallah. So right. So there, what happened is, look at when you go to a masjid, you count the amount of doors in a masjid. Say, you went first time to the masjid Taqwa. You count the, how many windows is here, how many doors is here, how many fans is here. You don't do that. So they asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, oh, you claim you went to Masjid al-Aqsa in one night. Tell us how many pillars are there. Tell us how many doors are there, all that type of thing. They thought they're going to catch Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They thought they're going to catch Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But Allah Ta'ala brought an image for Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. There's a riwayat here. أن إمران بن حسين narrating the author of إمران بن حسين أن رسول الله قال إن أخاكم النجاشية, that your brother Najashi قد مات, he's passed away, فصلوا عليه. So read, pray for him, right? Right. فصلوا عليه فقام فصففنا خلفه, we made the sufuf behind him, فكبر أربعا. Right. So see, this is the critical part here. Here's our main proof. وما نحسب الجنازة إلا بين يديه. وَمَا نَحْسِبُ الْجَنَازَةَ إِلَّا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. And we did not think except that the janazah was right in front of him. In other words, we read namaz in such a manner that we could perceive that the janazah was right in front of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that was our proof that this was the khususiyah, the speciality of our beloved Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So that I was telling you. So that's why we say we don't make Salatul Janaiz. Yes, you can make dua for the deceased person from far. If somebody passed away far, you are not able to attend the Janazah namaz. You can make a lot of dua, as much dua as possible, etc., etc. And another interesting thing is this here. Listen to this nicely. According to the Hanafi madhab, you cannot make several janazah namazes. So like how, sometimes a prominent person passes away in another land. Now you decide to make janazah namaz here. Like also what they do is sometimes when a prominent person passes away somewhere else, and then there's a very prominent person, then they make a Salatul Janaiz al-Ghaib in the Haramain Sharifain, despite the janazah namaz of that person being done in his hometown, whatever. So according to the Hanafis, there isn't double janazah namaz. There isn't double janazah namaz. But there is only one surah where it's double janazah namaz. See, when a person passes away, right, then his wali has the first right to perform the janazah namaz. His wali. And what you pull down this, you're going to do it in Miras, inshallah. Far'i mayit, asli mayit, Far'i asli qarib, Far'i asli ba'id. Far'i means the son. If not the son, then the father, and if not, then the brother, and if not, then the cousin, right? So if the close, listen, I see, if the close wali didn't give permission to do the janazah namaz, it was done without his permission, then he can come and redo it. You understand what I'm saying? He can redo the janazah. So that's the only surah in the Hanafi madhab where you can redo the janazah namaz. So sometimes people, what happened is this year, we done this mustaya that you must be buried as soon as possible wherever you are, etc., right? So now, a lot of times our foreign brothers that live here, they take the bodies home to their home country. What they do, they take the bodies to their home country. So now they ask, must we make janazah namaz here or must we make janazah namaz there? No, I'm not discussing the masla of taking the bodies away to a foreign country. That is a separate masla. That's not correct. You're supposed to, you done the masla here. You must bury as soon as possible, right? You must bury as soon as possible wherever you are, right? To take the body to a distant country. So the question, so if a person passes away at sea and there's no body, then there's no janazah namaz. According to Hanafi madhab, when there's no body, there's no janazah namaz. According to Hanafi madhab, until there's no body, there's no janazah namaz. You have to find the body until. I'm not sure about the other madhab. Maybe Sheikh Ismail can help us out. You were absent for that lesson when you done it in class, or you, yeah? No, okay. So I'm not sure what the other madhab, but in the Hanafi madhab, no body, no janazah namaz, right? So So they ask you, must you make the janazah namaz here, or must you make the janazah namaz in Bangladesh or India, in Pakistan, whatever? But in the Hanafi madhab, there's no double janazah namaz, right? I told you. So one way of I'm not discussing now whether to take the body away. That's not right, separate thing. But if they read janazah namaz here without the permission of the wali, then they can read it again there on Salah and say. So that's like a hila, what's it? To do like a double janazah namaz, so to say. Yeah, then also there's another also famous masla here also that according to the Hanafi madhab, I think this will come in a bit of detail, that you cannot make janazah namaz in a masjid. It is haram. In fact, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used some strong words. He used some strong words that you must not make a janazah namaz in a masjid. That's why you see normally, especially the Hanafi masjids, what they will do is they will take 3/4 of the masjid and of the building, and they will designate that as a masjid, and the back part they won't designate that as a masjid. Or maybe some places, maybe like Salt Lake, the masjid is right to the back, but on the left hand side, like that classrooms, whatever, they will say that is not the masjid proper. So the mu'takif can't go there. You people went to Masjid Mansour now, they made a mistake there. The trustees, they were not ulama. So they made the whole masjid, the whole building a masjid from the front right till there by the wudu khana. So according to Hanafi madhab, you can't read janazah namaz in the masjid. That's why if you go there, you see they build that whole portion on the right hand side. So now they make the janazah namaz in the right side. But that masla will come at a later stage. Nabi Sallam actually sounded out some severe warnings. But anyway, I told you, na'ah means to give the news of a death. Musalla is different. Musalla is not a masjid. You're speaking about something which is designated as a masjid. You can make janazah namaz in the musalla, right? That's okay, we stop there. You go for your period, inshallah.